start the recording. There we go. Okay, it should be live. I'm gonna post. Let's see, another post, live streams, post here. Post social, there we go. Made a post, we got people in chat. Oh my god, it's Cutie.
Hello.
It's Cutie in the Cutie stream. Hello, hello Glitch, hello Griffin Phyllis, hello Bitcrack, IGN, and Griffin Phyllis again, we have two of them. We have
Hello, orange, green, and blue names.
We have one that goes A, and we have one that goes meow. There's two Griffin Phyllises.
And then one of them that goes wah.
Two of them, yes, and Bitcrack IGN goes wah. Anyway, we should be live, so well, we have people talking, so like we are live. Can you hear us fine? Oh my god, that's our wait. Thank you, Jake. Jake and Froox that are subscribed. Actually, I'm gonna put one here as well, like under us, so we can get let me turn the sounds off, and that's fine. I'm just gonna put it in the floor so we can get sprayed with confetti if anyone does the subscribe thing again. So, hello everyone, welcome to another Resonance. We got Tom. Hello. I'm Froox, I'm here with Cyro, and we'll be answering your questions about Resonite, pretty much like whatever like you'd like to ask. Feel free to ask. Make sure to put a question mark, that way it kind of pops on our thing. We can, in the pinned messages so we don't miss it. We should be able to get started. We do have like a bunch of questions from Discord, so we're gonna go through those first. And once those are done, we're gonna go through the Twitch ones, but feel free to ask them already, like, we usually like want some of them to kind of pile up so we can start going through them, so we don't have like, so we don't have like, like, dead air. We're gonna probably fill with like some rambles anyways, but it's good to have questions. And people are watching ads. Yes. Audio levels are fine, we got people piling in. So, yes. We should be able to start going through the questions. So the first one we got from Discord is from, actually let me put the camera here so it's not floating. And the first question is from Josh. I've been thinking about persistence, specifically how the vast majority of components in slots, this field is always true. An element being persistent is very rarely queried or returned to, and it makes me wonder if it would be a neat benefit if there was an entire symbol field in every slot. One component for the property, as there reduced memory serialization size upwards to hundreds of thousands of source components any given session. Any change to this would be quite the refactor, but it's interesting at least to ponder these kinds of things to gain potential insight. What do you think? Do you see this as a problem or potential optimization for data model? So I think this one would be a bit of like micro-optimizing for the data model. We do want to like rework the data model, which is gonna be like broad sort of like, optimization for the whole thing, not like, one specific field. And it's gonna make like the impact of every like sync field like lower than it is right now. But even like, say right now, say, it takes, I don't know, like let's say 32 like, bytes for the field. It's like a bunch of like bookkeeping and stuff and so on. Maybe it's like, a little bit more, maybe it's like, but let's say it's 32 bytes. If we have like, hundreds of thousands of slots and components, that's 32 bytes times hundreds of thousands, which like would like just doing quick like napkin math, like say it works out so like 3.2 megabytes of like data for like such large scene. So if we put a lot of effort into like, hoisting it out, like managing it like differently, we save, for a really big scene, we save 3.2 megabytes, which I do this, and this is literally more data than we just saved, with tons of engineering. So, and that's, before we do like the major optimizations, which are gonna make it like much smaller, like where like each field is gonna be, probably just 4 bytes. Because that's actually gonna host a lot of like general stuff like for the data model, and just gonna keep it like more to the data and only do some of the bookkeeping stuff when it's actually needed. So that's always like, one thing that's important to consider for optimizations is like, is it worth the additional time, like the additional engineering complexity you put into it? Does it like, do the benefits of that outweigh, the complexity that was added? Because if there's a different systems now, all the systems need to be updated and they need to deal with it specifically, and now you have more complexity, tracking when objects get added and removed, to just be able to like kind of handle this stuff. And like when you want to query that parameter, now that becomes like a lot more harder. And when you, for example, do saving, it can be easier to just, be like, okay, this field is like, this value. You just access it directly. But if it's like somewhere else, now for every component you save, you actually have to do more complex lookups, and now we actually made the serialization much slower as a result. Because the lookups, like for each individual like field on everyone become a lot more complex. So I would say for this, like we're probably not gonna hoist it out. Like I don't think like the engineering complexity would outweigh it. We do want to like do general like optimizations for the data model that are gonna hoist out a lot of the kind of data that's gonna build into these sync elements and make it more kind of tracked on demand, because that's like where the biggest benefit will be, because that's gonna affect all of the fields instead of just one. So yeah, this is kind of pretty much like what it kind of boils down to. It's like do the benefits significantly outweigh the added engineering complexity? Because if you make a system a lot more complex, then now I need to deal with bugs, now I need to deal like with things, and maybe it actually makes some parts slower, and like you end up like coming out worse. So pretty much the thoughts on it. Next question's from Mint Shock. What's your favorite vegetable? Or vegetable? I think they meant vegetable. It kind of depends whether you mean like culinary vegetable or like botany vegetable, because I like, for example, I like peas. But peas technically are a fruit, like botanically speaking. So maybe that one. I do like I do like a lot of different ones. I do like broccoli. I do like cauliflower. Carrots are good. I do like carrots. Ooh, beetroots. I love beetroots. I like onions too. Onions are good. Actually, I don't know if are onions a vegetable, or is that more like that counts as vegetable?
I think they're vegetables.
Yeah. I do like a bunch of vegetables. I like different kinds. I do like beetroots. Beetroots are really good. Like I like cooked ones. Like I buy like these big jars of like diced beetroot. It's like in beetroot juice, and I'll just like whenever I'm making food, I'll just like then like scoop up a bunch and like just be like put it in my meal, and then I'm just like nom 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 beetroots. I like beetroots.
I like steamed or fried broccoli, especially if it's paired with like chicken or some meat.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Broccoli is actually one of those interesting ones, because I think like this is like a thing that a lot of people don't know, but there's people who really like broccoli, but there's also people who will like hate broccoli. And sometimes like you think like it's like people have different tastes, and so on, but sometimes the taste is actually literally different, because broccoli, it contains compound that only some people can detect, because some people they have genetics which give them like a receptor on their tongue which reacts to that compound in broccoli as super bitter. So depending on your genetics, broccoli can taste like really bitter to you. It's a similar thing, like, I think with cilantro, like, where, to some people it will taste like soap. And I think that's, like, one thing that people often don't realize is that, like, people's, like, subjective experience, even of the same thing, can actually be vastly different, and that will contribute to some of the, like, likes and dislikes of things.
Yeah.
For example, I don't like, like, broccoli tastes good, it doesn't taste bitter to me, but to some people it will. Next question is also from Mintshock. Mintshock is asking, would a reworked IK be based on Beppo physics, or will it be complete custom solution? It's gonna be custom solution. You generally don't want to use physics engine for, like, your IK. It doesn't perform well, and it doesn't behave well. Like, it's like, we actually, like, long time ago, we actually used, like, one that was, like, physics based, like, where it's, like, essentially sort of simulating the bones kind of as rigid bodies, and you simulated the constraints, and it's very painful getting the constraints to, like, behave, and also, like, you have to, like, do a lot of iterations on it. Because, like, it'll, like, like, the constraints will, like, try to put bone one way, but it's gotta conflict with the other constraints, so, like, it needs a lot of iterations to converge on a good solution, and that's very expensive, and even, like, with a lot of iterations, it will still, like, kind of behave weirdly. Like, but when we used physics-based IK, people kind of adopted the Jello IK, because the characters would sort of stretch and wobble, and it wasn't good at all. So it's generally nowadays, like, it's not like the way you approach IK. You don't want it to be a physics simulation. It's like an overkill that will also not behave well. Use, like, methods like, like Fabric, which is, like, one of the very commonly, like, used IK methods, which is, like, a lot faster and behaves a lot better. So in short, no, Beppo physics will not be used for this. Maybe, like, we can use, like, some, like, math method, but like, piggyback on some of the stuff, like, for example, like, say, positioning of elbows, we're gonna do, like, a raycast, so, like, it kind of avoids, like, some of the things in the world, but it's kind of not core of the IK itself, but it's sort of like using physics to probe the environment and colliders, but that's about it. Like, the core is gonna be custom solution.
Fabric has to be one of my favorite, like, inverse kinematics, because, like, it's so simple to, like, if you think you don't understand inverse kinematics, go look up Fabric. It's actually really easy to understand.
Yeah. It's one of those cool things, like, where it's, like, it's simple to understand how it works, because, like, when I was, like, digging into, like, the physics base, you have to, like, you have, like, Jacobian matrices, and, like, it's, like, super complex, like, math, and, versus Fabric IK, it's very easy to reason about. It's way faster, and also just behaves better. So it's like, it's like, it's so much better. Like, it's like,
yeah.
So, like in some cases, like, you won't be able to get, like, all three. Like, we'll get, like, a simple algorithm that is also better than the more complex ones, but this is definitely one of those cases.
Oh yeah, like, it, like, simplifies the process of finding, like, the solve down to literally, like, at its simplest, just finding points on spheres, pretty much. That's really it. You just do that back and forth, like two to 10 times, and you're converged in, like, a couple iterations.
So you don't even need to do that many. Like, it just kind of, it's good. Next question is, so I'm just gonna, there we go. Next question's from Socks the Fennec. Once we get custom shaders, do you think there will be a core set of features, slicing, stencil, material property blocks, they all support, or will be responsible to implement those if we want them? So some of those things, like, stencil or material property blocks, they're kind of more part of the shader pipeline, so, like, this will be, like, something that the individual shaders can access. Slicing, that's, like, more specific. Like, not every shader will want to do slicing. That wouldn't be really core part of the core shader system, but the way it's probably gonna work for a lot of the things is they're gonna be pre-made, like, functions. So like if you want slicing, maybe there's going to be like a node that's going to be like, you feed it like, some data, and it's going to tell you, is this sliced, is this not sliced? So essentially, like a lot of common functions will be wrapped into like little like functions that you just use within your shader code. So instead of like implementing all the math yourself, you just use like a nested node essentially, like that's kind of provided for you. And people like because we want to have like nested node support, people will be able to share those. So if there's like common shader math or common shader operations, people will be able to share those with each other. And just put it into your integrate it into your own shader, so you don't have to do the math every single time. Next question is from Sock Every component has enabled bool. Even when it doesn't use it, it's meaningless, which can be confusing, hard to reason about. Do you think there's a way to alleviate confusion? Could components only have it if they need it? So, there's two things. One, even if the component itself doesn't use enable bool for its own behavior, there's actually other systems that do use it. So, for example, stuff like doing component search. So for example, consider like, component like object root, or garbable block. The enabled field doesn't do anything on the component itself, like it doesn't have any active code, but the enabled field changes whether certain functions will find that component or not. So even if the component doesn't use it, there actually are, uses of the enabled property, for the uses for enabled property, like, for other systems. The other part is if we like split it and there are components that like, can be enabled and cannot be enabled, I feel that it would actually kind of create more complexity, because now when you work with components, you essentially have two classes. You have enableable components and non-enableable components, and now, like, if you want to do algorithm that, like, is more general and works, like, across multiple ones, now you have to kind of be, like, there's two different categories, and you just kind of pushed confusion into, like, you push the confusion somewhere else, where I would arguably say is actually going to be even more confusing to people. So we're very unlikely going to remove it from components for, like, those two reasons. And also, the way like we would probably address the confusion, like, I think is like with documentation, sort of describing how does it actually use the enabled state, just so people can understand what it'll do for each component and what it want.
Yeah, eventually we'll have a better UI to make the documentation like that more readily available at like a glance, I imagine, right?
That too, like we want to like more integration, but like the important part is having the documentation in the first place too. The next question's from Yosh. I guess to tie it together, update order 2. Oh, this seems like a follow-up. It's pretty much the same answer. Like, like with the persistent, like, it's probably not worth it to save, like, a little bit of memory, like at the cost of increased complexity. Next question is also from Yosh, following last week interface composition. What I meant is empty sync element hole is information of this element can be saved and encoded, is encoded in type system. Indeed, while it does have a contract, that contract is enforced compile time. I'm aware similar patterns exist under netlibs and standard lib. I have similar opinions in those places. I suppose it boils down to preference background. I'm fond of heavily utilizing expressive type systems to encode fine-grained information, formulate compile time proofs and correctness while I build a project by composing small parts. In the car, I tend to not make centralized managers for this distinguishing implementation calls. It's habit brought over from functional programming related, and C# has looked at more functional features. It's become easier to do. Have you traveled along this line before? What do you think? Yeah, generally, like when things can be proven at compile time, but in some cases it can kind of get in the way and be kind of more difficult to achieve. But also, like I mentioned previously, some of the features in C# and .NET that like we would need for like more expressivity, they didn't exist at the time that code was written. So a lot of the stuff we actually want to do with data model rework will actually take a lot of the stuff out And it's essentially just going to change like how a lot of this is implemented in the first place to sort of modernize it and clean it up. So like there's going to be a lot of stuff where it will be kind of addressed like, differently. But it essentially like, with like those elements, like the empty sync element, for example, like, it needed to fit into existing system. So it became like a question of like, do we rework the whole thing right now? Which maybe like, back then it wouldn't be as good as well because it didn't have as much information. But do we rework the whole thing right now to fit this one element, or do we just fit it into the existing system and use like, those kinds of patterns? So it kind of, becomes like one of those kind of things. So it depends. Like it's one of those things where you sort of like you want things to be like a sort of like compiler as much as possible, but like especially when you have to work with existing systems or existing kind of patterns, existing designs, we have to kind of weigh it like like is this actually like is this gonna cause like a lot of issues? Is it worth like doing that rework? Because sometimes we'll like not like do the rework just on principle. We'll do it like if it like provides like significant kind of benefits to things. And sometimes there's not really benefits to doing that at the time, so we'll just go like for like whatever kind of fits better like into the system. So that's all the questions from Discord, which means we can get into the Twitch questions. Just a reminder for everybody who joined, if you'd like to ask questions, make sure to put a question mark, that way it kind of pops on our pinned messages. What was gonna say? This way, like, we kind of don't miss those questions. So we're gonna start going through them. So let's scroll up, and the first question from Twitch is from computer user. Starbucks Mr. Tatsu for Froox and the Morpheus Hour stream. Would you potentially make appearance there sometime? I'm not sure. I'm not really like doing like stuff with moderation, so like I wouldn't really be answering any questions there. So I would say probably not, I guess.
They are both yellow though, so it makes sense.
Well, they're saying that all yellow creatures look the same. Live on stream in front of everyone.
I suppose you are more of a mustard.
No. Mango.
Mango mustard.
Oh, I don't think it would go well together. Checking the Froox author is asking, did you hear that Arcane Valley is in trouble? I heard they are looking for heroes to defend it. Oh no, we'll have to go there some of the future streams. Yes, Arcane, for those who don't know, Arcane Valley is this one of the MMC entries like this year, which we actually finally can talk about, because all the winners are announced. It was like a very, very fun entry. It's also quite impressive, like how many NPCs they got like in the world, like at a time. Like it's really cool, and we definitely want to do like some streams there. Like I kind of just picked this war because I was like I didn't have energy to like do like one of the kind of bigger ones. I kind of picked this war because I do like the sort of aesthetics of it. So it's like good enough for today's stream. This war is also like one of the MMC entries. It was a kind of cool sort of environment.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Nuki-kun's asking, hey, what's up, dogs? It's Pine Martin.
I'm Pine Martin.
I'm Fox. Ish.
I mean, the company is called Yellow Dog Man.
Yeah, but it's the biggest meme.
Okay, I see.
Defamer's asking, what are you personally interested in working on next? Sleep. This whole week was very busy. I had to like keep setting up alarm every day because we're doing like MMC judging and MMC rehearsals and the MMC ceremony and so on. So it's kind of like I'm just kind of tired. But
yeah.
More generally, I don't know. I feel like a better answer is like when I'm not tired.
I can't say I'm too much different. I've been like dealing with like setting up like a family event all week, and it just happened yesterday. And there was like several dozen people at my house yesterday, and so that was extremely exhausting. So yeah, sleep sounds about good, I'd say. Very hard work sleeping.
Oh. Computers users asking, was the Searchlight air strafing in Resonite done on purpose? Well, depends what you mean by purpose. Like, if by purpose you mean that, like, we looked at, like, you know, source games and where, like, we want to make the behavior like that, then no. It was not inspired by that. But it was more general. It was, like, you know, like, especially, like, for social platform, it feels better to have control, you know, when you jump, to be able to kind of move around. It just kind of like has better feeling, because if you don't have that, then like the moment you jump, you can't change your direction, and like you kind of like your character feels a lot heavier because you kind of like lose some of the control, and it can be good for games if you're making games, but for just general kind of getting around the environment, having more feeling of control is better. A good one for you. Computers are asking mainly for Sire, how difficult was it to get leap motion working in desktop mode? Asking because I remember you mentioning something about having to wrangle Resonite into working with it, and Minchuk saying that leap motion only has native support in VR mode.
Yeah, so I've yet to actually like implement it, mostly because I've been very busy in real life, unfortunately. But pretty much like what I had to do was, so firstly, it checks if you're on Windows, and if you're not on Windows, it will just disable the leap motion integration entirely. Obviously, that's not true anymore because it works natively on Linux, and so I needed to remove that check. Secondly, it also checks to see whether your headset is like actually tracking, so it positions like, so it can like get the body node position and put like your hands in front of your head. That I also needed to like rework a little bit, so that it actually uses your head position before the locomotion animations get a hold of it, because otherwise it like moves your hands relative to wherever your like locomotion animations are looking, and that's kind of like strange in desktop mode. But other than that, I didn't really have to bang on it too much. I just had to change those couple things and make sure that the body node is where it's supposed to be when I'm in desktop mode, and it just kind of worked, because it originally used to work in desktop mode, so it kind of still does for the most part. I just had to change those couple things.
Yeah, and like most of the drivers, like not VR specific, it's just kind of like, you know, where is it positioning things, because the VR mode assumes like it's on your headset, so it kind of computes the hand positions from that. It'd be definitely cool to like have it like in desktop again, just the hands.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will appreciate it.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah, it does work with the latest drivers still, even with our like, because we still use like a somewhat outdated like binding set for it, but it still just works fine.
Yes. Next question's from Sprocket Clown. They're asking, are there plans to support standalone headsets? I have a lot of friends who want to play Resonite but can't afford a PC. I know I think it's meant to be that. I know that's easier said than done given the hardware limitations of those devices. So long-term, yes, it's not gonna happen super fast because those devices do have a lot of limitations. We might need to like move to custom renderer first, because when we had like builds before for you know, some of the Quest headsets, Oculus Go and stuff like that run on Android. It worked, but problem with us running inside of Unity was that the runtime is not fast, and also like the garbage collector was pretty poor, causing like, you know, memory fragmentation and eventual crashes. Since then, we've done the splitting, which actually increases performance hugely. The problem is the render is still Unity. and getting the splitting architecture working on mobile devices, that can be a bit hard too. So we probably want to like switch to like our render that's more kind of tailored, for just generally like we have more control over it, and it's also like gonna perform like really well on mobile platforms, and we kind of have control over how it runs. With that said, even with that, it's not gonna be like the same like. One thing that it needs, is like the engine to be optimized, but also for mobile platforms, you need the content to be optimized, because even with the best, engine optimizations, the hardware still has a fraction of, power that your desktop has. So if you throw like, a lot of complex models at it, a lot of complex slides, it just doesn't have the horsepower to like, handle as much as your PC can. So, like with the standalone headsets, you very likely will, be limited to like mobile optimized worlds and mobile optimized avatars, which it works like one way where like users on desktop can like join those worlds, but on a desktop you won't be able to join people, if they're in like a heavy session, because like the mobile hardware won't be able to handle that. So in some ways it's gonna be a bit of a different experience. But yeah, it'll come eventually. Next question's from also Sparky Clown. Are there plans to implement physics engine like Havoc or U-Boat so people can have intuitive way to add physics to objects without complex flags? So we already have physics engine, like we use something called Beppu physics. The thing is, like, we haven't integrated the full rigid body support. But like, we don't need to integrate another physics engine, we just need to integrate those features from the physics engines we already have, which is one of those things that is planned. We definitely want like, full rigid body support. You can kind of do it a little bit already, it's not like the most optimal way to do it, but you can sort of abuse the character controller to like do like the rigid body. But eventually we will have like full rigid body support, like, add support for constraints, and so we can have like, a lot of like fun stuff.
Yeah, if you haven't checked out Beppu yet, you should go watch some of their demo videos, because it is a surprise. You'd be surprised at how fast it is for a completely 100% C# physics engine.
Yes.
It is extremely fast.
It's a very good physics engine, like, and the developer behind is also like super awesome. Like, he's very, like, both very smart, but also very like goofy, in a good way. Next question's from Check the Froox author. Do you think we could get generic supports in Perflex someday? Especially with nested nodes, it would be very powerful to increase the reusability of code. For example, you write a generic piece of Perflex that reads a dynamic variable, decimal operation and value, and then writes it using write dynamic variable t again. Just that piece of code doesn't specify the exact type of t, that's only specified once the nested node is part of actually used. I think we could. It's gonna be trickier for some things, because like some of like you would essentially have to, like, if you use the, so like your argument becomes t, then it will sort of work like, generic inheritance, like where you say this nested node has generic type t, and then like you use within that node, you would like use other nested nodes which also like accept the t as a parameter, and you don't need to like fit all the constraints. So I feel that could work, like you just kind of specify it, and then like when you create a specific instance, it just kind of instantly is those specifically, and I think it could be like pretty powerful. Kyle Wolf's asking, I'm curious, I heard that Facebook's Horizon Worlds was announced to be dropping VR, then I heard they did a U-turn, aren't dropping it. What do you think about that? I mean, not that like, Meta or Facebook, like, we're already trustworthy company, like, on a lot of fronts, but when company does that, like, like, it's like, how do you trust their things? It's, I don't know, it's weird. It's also weird, like, because they like literally like Facebook has like as close as you get to unlimited like resources as you get. And the fact like they're like oh like we're dropping this like oh never mind. Like one of the things I always like had issue with them like is like, and also their hardware is they're very keen to just drop the support and just leave people in the dust. Which like like a lot of people like with their headsets especially the older ones like would like run into problems and they don't really they don't really want to put like resources into them, even though like I feel they have like more than enough to handle a lot of this stuff. But it's also like weird because like like they have infinite resources. We have like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what they have, and we're still here and we're still going. Whereas like company is like what are giant like biggest technical companies like they're just gonna decide to give up. Which in some ways it's kind of encouraging because it shows that like having like a huge amount of resources isn't everything. It shows that like the passion you have for the project and the drive and dream for it like can matter a lot more than just having sheer amount of resources. So that's interesting in some ways. I don't know why they did like a U-turn or something. Like it seems so weird. They're just kind of like I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I know like the reason like why this happens. It's because like it's because usually like the people who make this kind of stuff, like why we're still here, and now they're thinking about not being here. Like it always like baffles me, even though I know why. It's because like the people who manage those things tend to be pretty like out of touch, like when they're that huge. But like it just baffles me how nobody gets the memo ever. Nobody ever gets the memo that when you double, triple, quadruple down on this stuff, it makes your product die. Like how can you do that and think I'm a good businessman? Like how? People want things that actually listen to their user base and implement the things that the user base wants. They don't want your like corporate like meeting simulator. People already don't want to go to meetings in real life. Like get the picture, guys.
I do feel like a lot of the companies like especially like they have like the management layers and people just get like so disconnected from like, because like for us like we live and breathe VR. Like I spend like a good chunk of my day, like pretty much every day inside of VR. To the point like where I kind of consider myself native to VR, But I feel like a lot of the people like the vibe I kind of get from a lot of people like in the industry and those companies is like it's just like they kind of treat it like, oh, this is like trendy, and it's almost like fashion, like technical fashion. Is like this is a trendy thing to be like working on right now, so we're gonna be working, but like they don't have like a deep connection to it. It's just like whatever the wave is, and like they don't really like fundamentally like kind of understand like what makes it great and what people want with it, and like what makes it like like they're not building it for themselves. They're trying to like build it for what they think people want. Versus like Resonite, like we kind of build it first for ourselves because like we want to build it in a way because we use it every day to be a place that we are comfortable with and comfortable being in, and if we find it comfortable, then it's gonna be comfortable for other people, because it's not being it's not being built for some like hypothetical person out there, some hypothetical entity that like you're guessing like what needs, or maybe you're trying to like average out like the needs and wants like of like so many people to end up like with something that doesn't really represent like anyone in particular, and it just kind of becomes bland and sanitized. So like there's a name for this concept like that we do is like called dog fooding, and it's like you use your own thing that you are developing, and I feel like that's like very, very important to older projects. You want to like dog food them like because like you kind of like you realize like what it needs and like what our issues are because you run into them yourself. And a lot of the fixes and a lot of the stuff like like we would do is like stuff we run into ourselves, stuff that makes us suffer when using it, but like if it's making us suffer, it's making others suffer. But I feel like we're going a bit of a tangent now.
Yeah. I'll cap it off by saying that like I doubt any big shot CEO or whatever is gonna watch like our little streams here. But if you are a big CEO of a big company and you are trying to make a product, if you want to make a lot of money, actually listen to your users and use the thing that you're making. If you aren't using the thing that you're making, you will have no idea how it works, and you'll make a fool of yourself, and you will make approximately $0.
That actually reminds me of that like recent video with the McDonald's CEO, like trying to eat a burger, and he's like, I'm gonna eat this product, and they just like bite a little bit, and it's like like and they're like big bite for big Irish, and it's like just barely bit at it, and it's like, and it's just like, and he keeps calling it product, and it's just you get the feeling of like. I don't know. It's like sometimes it feels like people like who are in charge of those things, like they just live in a completely different reality, like, and they're just like trying to like, I don't know.
I don't know what reality those guys are living in, but it certainly isn't a virtual one.
No. See, like, and that's the thing. We live in virtual reality. Wait. Protogen Flux is asking, are we still on track for IK rework start before Flexpos releases, or have plans there shifted? I'm not particularly, I'm pretty sure like we'll have the IK reworked before then, because it's still like, I don't want to like say any specific dates, but those are releasing like later this year. Next question is from Snudgley. Hello, does Resonite use the Oculus lip sync library for lip syncing? If so, do you have any plans to create custom implementation? If not, then what do you use for lip syncing? For context, I've looked into making my own app using lip sync technology, but I found Oculus lip sync doesn't have native Linux support. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the answer is yes, we use Oculus lip sync, but also we use another library called Open Lip Sync, which is actually made by one of our community members, Kayobi Oru. And let me actually see if I can grab the link for the repo. So we actually ran into this issue ourselves, is because the Oculus lip sync library doesn't support Linux, and we run on Linux, and it's been an issue for a while. And for a while, we would essentially have the Windows users in the session compute device themes, which kind of worked, but also created a lot of like weird issues. But fortunately, like we're kind of talking about it like for a while. So there's so one of the community members like made this library, the Open Lip Sync, and we actually use it as a fallback option. So if you're running on Linux, you're going to be using this library. If you're running on Windows, then you can actually select which one you want to use. So it can use either of them. And it pretty much solves the like whole issues. Like the device names, they look a bit different, between the two different between different ones. So sometimes it can be also preference. If you're on Linux, unfortunately, like you only get that one, but it makes device names work on Linux, which is very good, and it also provides an alternative that's like a good solution for if you don't want to rely on the library from Facebook.
Yeah. It works well enough that you probably don't even notice a difference between Linux and Windows users just by looking at them like with your eyeballs.
I mean,
Like, at
you're on
least I don't.
Linux. You're on
Yeah,
Linux
I
right
mean,
now, so like, his Vysims
can
are
see
literally his Vysims are being computed by this open source library, and mine, because I'm on Windows, unfortunately, my Vysims are being computed by the Oculus Lip Sync one.
meow, meow, meow. It works pretty good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vysims are streamed to other users, by the way, if you didn't know.
Computer user to Froox, the stripe texture for arm warmers doesn't quite line up and has a seam. Was this on purpose or just quirk of your avatar's UV mapping that you simply don't feel like fixing? Sorry, I've never noticed and I'll notice it. Also, saw duplicate comment, forgot to add question. Oh. Well, I bought these assets from Gumroad, so these are the textures they came with. I just changed it to orange, so I don't know if it's on purpose. Like, that's up to the author, but also like I don't really like, like it's nothing I would fix myself that was to be fixed in the original asset. I don't really do too much modeling stuff and texturing.
Froox, your visuals are not immaculate. My immersion is ruined, and I hate you.
But you're not even a VR.
I'm just kidding.
Next question is from computer user. Is there some kind of client-side way to make all avatars use open lip sync to avoid any potential issues with the other one, forgot name, not fully working on Linux? Would this be even needed in the first place? It's not needed. Typically users are, computer on Vysims, and they actually stream the computed Vysims along with the voice data, which helps reduce the CPU, workload on your machine. So you don't really need to do it. Like, if you really wanted to do it for some reason, you could make a mod that just forces it to be computed locally, but I generally don't know why you would actually want to do it.
Yeah, you can also make a mod if you wanted to prototype your own special sauce Vysim analyzer. You could do that too. There's nothing stopping you.
Yes.
This is just a fun idea as an aside.
If you do also make or if you either make or know of another Vysim analyzer that might be good to integrate, feel free to make it a GitHub issue, because the way it's implemented, it's actually easier for us to add more of them and add more to the list, so people can pick which one they want to use. Sprocket Clown is asking, is there a particular headset you consider to be best option for using Resonite? I feel it's more personal choice. People prefer different headsets for different reasons, so I wouldn't say there is.
Yeah, I can't say there is. I mean, my personal preference, I was using a Quest Pro for a while, but my personal preference is obviously the Vive Pro Eye because it has the most comprehensive eye and face tracking. But hopefully that's soon to change with the Steam Frame.
Yeah.
I would like a Steam Frame, please.
Yeah, it's I also use the Vive Pro Eye, I use Quest Pro. I know people who use Pico headsets, people use the different Quests. I know there's people still on the original CV1, the Rift headset. I know some people who use the Vive Cosmos, and there's all kinds, so... Devirus is asking, any movie recs, recommendations?
Stargate.
That's not a movie. Well, it is a movie,
Yeah,
but I would say, I mean, that one is more recommendation for the series, because the movie kind of starts, but it gets really good with the series.
Yeah.
I don't think, because it's been a bit since I actually watched a movie. I've been watching more series.
Oh, actually,
Arrival?
I know a really good. I do know.
I like Arrival.
That one's a good one.
Yeah.
I do know a good movie though. There is a movie. It was originally going to be. I think, produced by some, one of those one of the typical studios. I think, was it DreamWorks or Pixar? I don't know, whichever. It was dropped and then it was picked up by I think Netflix or something. It's called Nimona. and it's a really, really, really good animated movie. And it breaks some of the tropes of like those kind of like, you know, Disney looking esque like animated movies, and it's actually really cool. And like I actually quite like it as an adult. Like, you know, it's very relatable. I like it a lot, and I think you should check it out.
There's actually one movie that like I feel everyone should watch at least once. It's not a fun movie, but it is important movie to watch. Is Schindler's List. Like that movie is powerful. It's been a while since I've seen it. I'm kind of like thinking like what I like watch. Sometimes like I'm looking for like old movies or like more recent movies. Oh, other one like if you like one animated is like, you know, Spirited Away. Or generally like a lot of stuff from Hayao Miyazaki. Like it does like a lot of really cool things. I want to be like, you know, like I'm like, there's like, you know, movies that like I feel like everybody kind of knows. So I'm like I should probably avoid like those. So I'm just kind of thinking like, what did I like, you know, watch that's like, I don't have like good memory for like stuff like especially because I mostly watch like we did watch the Deadpool movies, which are like, you know, their own thing too. They're like very fun. Or if you want to go like Marvel or like Guardians of Galaxy too.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of movies. it might help like to ask like, you know, if you want specific genre or something. Also like for me like I do a lot of like sci-fi stuff and such, but like if you could constrain, if you want like more recent movie versus like, you know, older movies, like makes it easier to pick.
Yeah, if it was a movie, I would be tempted to recommend I forgot the name. It's like you and I watched it a lot with Maddie K. What was it?
Foundation?
Yeah, Foundation. If that was a movie, I would recommend that 500,000% for this question.
This is an interesting one because like if you ask for favorite TV series or recommendations for TV series, then like I got like tons more because I tend to like watch those a lot more. Foundation is a good one. I do like there's also another movie, but I'm gonna like give is Pantheon. That is a really good like animated series.
Wait a minute.
Really good.
Wait. Froox, how could we miss it? Dune.
That's good. I actually haven't seen the second one still. I need to watch the second one.
It's so good. You gotta watch it. It's so good.
It's definitely good. Definitely not like one of my top ones, but like it's good. Everyone like another one like Sci-Fi Ex Machina. I kind of want to watch that one again. And a lot of people are recommending the Hail Mary, what is it, Hail Mary? I haven't seen that one yet. I don't want to see it, but because people are saying good things about it. Okay, let's see. Next question I got is from Jack the Fox Otter. Speaking of dogfooding, which friction points that currently exist in Resonite are the ones that both of you ran into the most? There's a bunch. Also, like one for me that happens a lot is actually the IK, because I usually use full body a lot, and like I get quite annoyed with it. Like, you know, like there's a lot of issues, and I'm like, and it's something I just kind of deal with every single day. But there's a lot of stuff like in general. Like there's like small things, like, you know, like we're running into, for example, with the gizmo system, and I want to be like, okay, I wanna like, you know, fix up the gizmo system, so like, you know, it's like much kind of better, like so a lot of issues resolved. It's a lot of kind of like minor issues. The UI is actually a common one. Like oftentimes, you know, I want to search something in my inventory, but we need to kind of rework like, you know, inventory, or I want to find something, you know, that somebody made that I don't have saved. So I'm like, I really wish we would have we would have had the workshop already, so I can just, you know, go and search the thing. So that is another one. There's a bunch of like tiny ones, but these kind of come to mind right now. So with the contacts UI, if I like open my contacts UI the first time, I will look up for a bit because I have like a bunch. So that's another one. Like I'm like, this needs to be reworked. I kind of suffer with it, but
yeah, I every time I come out of Blender, so I'm gonna rip your game apart, Froox.
well,
Every time I come out of Blender, I realize that the control scheme for our node system in desktop mode's not it, Chief. It's
oh there.
It's mostly it's mostly like just the like little things like, you know, I keep trying to like multi-select, and I keep trying to like I can't like box select like a group of nodes and like move them around like on my screen. It's a little hard to do that. So I just do it one by one. And yes, I know there are prints that do this, but I don't use prints because I don't like prints. And I would rather just have that as like a native feature. Also just like the little like nitpicks with like the way certain casting like overloads are prioritized. And just like the little bugs here.
You know,
and
I can
there that,
fix
like,
those.
I know. You can fix the IK, Froox. You can just do it.
I will.
If you fix the IK, I'll fix Protoflux.
All of it.
Yeah. Smile.
All of Protoflux. Okay, all of Protoflux will be fixed.
you know how it is, Froox. There's like a million and gazillion. It's like
Fix all the bugs.
it's
All
just,
the
you
bugs
gotta-
will be. All of the bugs will be fixed. Ever. You've heard it here.
like you know how it is. Like you just gotta like sit down and
Oh.
do it. It's just you just haven't done it yet.
Yes. Yeah, that's the problem with a lot of things. Next question's from Kai Volps. I'm curious, I'm having issues getting OVLS working for my project. Do you happen to have pointers where to start looking for resources to get the open lip sync? To start working for resources to get Visime output to actually compute? I don't know, like it just works.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, like I don't know, like it just works.
Yeah,
There's
works on my machine.
there's a mod that like that added support for it before we added it officially, so maybe look at that. There might be a good reference, but I think it has like some samples too that you can look at. Next question's from Devers. Have you thought about writing a paper? I mean, it depends on what. I'm not really like much of like paper writer. I also don't know like what I would write paper about. Next question's from Snudgely. Did you say the previously Windows users would compute the Visemes for Linux users? That's actually really amusing to me. Yes, it actually kind of also makes sense because like the way like it's implemented, because like the Visemes are driven by Viseme analyzer component. The way it works is the component will it has like the input is the audio source, the audio data, but it also can input like a stream like of data, which is the actual Visemes. So it'll check it'll check like, is there a stream? If the user owns the stream, they'll be like, well, this is my stream, so like nobody's computing this for me, so I'm just gonna compute it, and then like fill the stream so it gets synced to everyone. Then for other users, they'll be like, oh, there's a stream, so I'm gonna skip the actual computation and just use the data from the stream. But if the Linux user is like, like it will check like, well, I can't compute this, therefore I'm not going to initialize the stream. So the other users, which are Windows users, would not be able to, like they would essentially see like, well, there's no stream data, so I need to actually compute this locally on my end. Which kind of worked. Because like, most users will be on Windows. The problem is Linux users will not be able to see their own Visemes, and Linux users will not be able to see Visemes of other Linux users. So it kind of worked, but like it was not like Good. And also there were cases where it didn't work. Next question's from Sprocket Clown. Is the bhaptics issue likely to be fixed soon? Depends which issue, but I would probably recommend like upvoting it on GitHub, or if you have like more data, provide like more data. And there's like some issues like with the library where it kind of doesn't work for some things, but I haven't like looked into it. But upvoting is like if you want like to prioritize something, like either of two things you can do is give it an upvote if you haven't. This kind of makes it kind of pop up higher. And if you have like more information, like for example, be like, I'm using this, and like you share your logs and like, add more information to the report, that helps too. Don't send messages, just being like, +1 or bump, do the upvote, because sending, just bump message, it just kind of creates noise, and it doesn't help, because like when we sort issues, by upvotes, it doesn't make it go higher. It just because like the comments, they don't get counted towards the upvote, so like the upvote's like the proper way if you want to +1 it.
So if you're saying like the issue on something, definitely specify which issue you mean, because there's a lot of issues out there, and we aren't in touch with all of them. At least not at a moment's notice.
There's a lot of issues, so like being more specific helps too, because sometimes the more general the question is, the more general answer you'll get, because we might not know like what specifics you're talking about. This one, I think this is just within the chat. Seven Void is asking, what's next other than Unity SDK for Resonite? Don't have any big announcements today, but I definitely do want to like polish up some of the things that we're kind of working on, some of the smaller ones, like the session asset transfer and stuff like that. Just some cleanup.
Big update marketplace.
Oh. Oh, this is also like within. Next question's from Nerdexic under Yellow Bean. What's the cleanest way to get a VRChat world already existing and working in Unity into Resonite? So I would say the Unity SDK that we released. This is a new thing that's like, for essentially being able to bring existing content from Unity into Resonite. It's available at the Unity SDK repo, like on Resonite. You can check our if you check the updates channel, the latest update, it has like a link to it. But I would add an asterisk to it, because it's currently in beta, so it's still not quite, like the kinks aren't like worked out, like the converters are kind of missing. So if you do want to use that one right now, you probably have to put like a little bit of like elbow grease into it. The other ways, that's like other approaches where you can like, for example, import individual assets, assemble it in here, but it's gonna be a lot more laborious. Or you could like, export, like use a plugin to export it as FBX in Unity, which works for some things, but you'll probably lose a bunch of stuff. So I would say the Unity SDK is like gonna be the best way. If you want to be completely hassle-free, or well, maybe not even completely, but if you want to be mostly hassle-free, give it maybe a few more weeks. It should kind of, get kind of better. Like it already got like some bug fixes which make some things better, but it still kind of needs, some converters and stuff. But if you don't mind, like putting some elbow grease into like getting it to work, and maybe adding some of your converters for like materials and shaders, it might be a good way to do it already. And if you do that and you like end up like making some improvements to it, feel free to make contribution PRs as well. We appreciate like kind of community improvements, because they're gonna help it make it more robust for everyone. But yeah, definitely like long term, definitely it's gonna be like if you want to do it like really right now, I would still maybe say Unity SDK, because I feel like some of the things can be like easier to just fix in the Unity SDK than like trying to assemble it by hand or reassemble by hand. Maybe the export could work quicker depending on what you're exactly bringing. but long term is definitely gonna be Unity SDK if you have like existing worlds, because that's gonna convert stuff as close to like 1-to-1 as it can, and it's gonna be very direct. Because like, you know, with stuff like if you export stuff into FBX, you know, it doesn't bring, you know, colliders and like a lot of other things, whereas the Unity SDK can actually get like it can get all the, you know, stuff that cannot be shoved into some like exchange format.
And if you're savvy enough, you can even extend it yourself. I know one of my friends was actually doing that because they're really adept at Unity, so they were actually extending the SDK while you were building it, like for use in their own project.
Yes, and that's pretty much like the intention of it, is like making it, you know, making it open source allows, you know, people, like, allows everyone to kind of improve it, which kind of, you know, hope that people will contribute their improvements, but also like, if you need to modify it, you know, to better suit your project that you're bringing, you know, feel free to do that as well. People can make forks. You can, you know, just like make changes to it, like, you know, that are very specific to your project that help like bring it over. We want to give people as much control as possible. So, but also depends, you know, on everybody's kind of like skill level for like, you know, working with these kind of things. I know like I know like someone in the community, like Retro Hyena, he wants to like, he's been like working on some like improvements to it, and he told me he's gonna be like making a PR like this upcoming week probably. So that might like, you know, bring a lot of kind of cool improvements to it. Like he's got a lot of stuff kind of converting. It's actually kind of cool because like from what he said, like he got what's the word? You got like, you know, stuff even like, you know, like some VRs to Fury stuff, like for example clothing toggles to convert into like the, you know, the context menu in Resonite. So it should be like, you know, pretty cool. Like it should convert a good chunk of the avatar over, so I'm kind of excited for that. And I think that's gonna help a lot of people kind of coming over from VR chat. But yeah, definitely, it definitely is like, you know, in beta state, so like give it a little bit more, but like it's probably gonna be the best way to bring stuff over. And it's gonna also, you know, just keep improving over time.
I'm waiting for someone to make like a Minecraft interface with it now, right?
Oh my god, yes. Minecraft mod, I would love that. You know, like I'm kind of like half tempted to do something like that myself at some point. Just be like, I'm just on like Minecraft Resonite integration. I would have to learn, well, I have to relearn Java.
Oh, that's a fate worse than death.
But it's from Minecraft.
I suppose death is warranted for Minecraft.
Right. Why? Next question is from Perversion Flux. The one main difference between Unity and Resonite is that Unity has automatic editor-level mesh colliders for selecting stuff, which leads to a lot of objects imported from Unity being colliderless and specifically set up with explicit colliders. Would making an option to inject mesh collider for each mesh render automatically make sense to solve this, or do you think it would be better to just manually fix this in Unity by explicitly defining mesh colliders on objects? I'm not sure if are you talking about Unity SDK or just editing stuff in game? So one thing I was gonna say, we actually already support that. It's not very well known about, but there's a night like you can toggle on in a world. You can toggle the developer mode, and the way you do that, it ends up like being a little bit hidden because it can be kind of heavy. But you essentially have to enable edit mode, and then in your like developer tool, you can enable developer mode. What that will do, it will actually put mesh colliders on every single thing that doesn't have them, but just temporary ones. Which is why it can be a little bit heavy because like you turn it on, but actually like with the split ending, it's much better than it used to be. So if you want to do editing and be able to select anything, you can do that. You can turn that on, and it's gonna let you select anything because everything's gonna have mesh colliders. And then once you turn the dev mode off, the colliders will go away. So it kind of automatically cleans them up. If you really, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, I'm a little bit confused really with this question because, like, if you're working with the Unity editor, with the Unity SDK, then it shouldn't matter because, like, you're using the Unity editor, you can select stuff there. So I don't quite understand the issue because
I think it's because they're saying that it imports the mesh without the collider on it, but you can still select it in the editor.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I get that part, but like, it imports the mesh without collider because there's no actual collider on it. So like, if you're using the Unity SDK to edit stuff, you know, then using the Unity editor, and you can already select it there. So like they
want to be able to like walk on it in game, but like if you want to add a collider to your thing, you got to add a collider to your thing.
Yeah, like that's the really confusing part because like it sounds like you don't want it to be a collider, but you want there to be collider because like even within the Unity editor, if you don't have a collider on it and you go into play mode, you won't be able to walk on it either because it doesn't have a collider. So if you want a collider, then put a collider on it.
Oh, I think they mentioned that like it's for like scenes that have lots and lots and lots of objects that need colliders, but like, you know, they don't. It'd be like tedious to sit there and add a collider to like 1,000 objects, right?
Unity has like mass edit support, so you can do it for a lot of things.
Okay, never mind then.
Like if you need things to have colliders, then you need to put colliders on them. Like it's just like there's not really a difference like in Unity, because in Unity the fact that you can select an editor is just for the editor. Like once you run that content, even within Unity, it doesn't have a collider, so like you won't be able to interact with it either. Ooh, Dynamo's asking, favorite plants? Oh. I don't really think about plants like favorite ones. I don't know, I mean flowers are nice, I like flowers. I mean it's not very specific, but trees are nice.
One of my friends is technically a plant, but also can spawn several different plants on their head depending on their mood.
You're talking about Colin.
I guess maybe they would be I guess that would be my favorite plant.
Colin's a favorite plant, but I should say he's like 90% cat.
Yeah, but he's still a little plant, so.
All the blend. Oh, I don't really think like I don't have like a favorite one. I think. I actually used to grow cacti. I had like a cacti and it bloomed once or twice, but it's been long ago. Actually, wait. Would fruit plants would like a blueberry bush count? Because like you can eat it. You know what? I think that works. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say like blueberry or bilberry bushes, like because like you can just go to them and just be like nom 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 nom.
Yeah, we have wild raspberry bushes out here that you can like pick the raspberries off and eat right there.
They're free. You can just take them.
They are, because they're like natural raspberry bushes and they have like no pesticides on them and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I like those. Like you know, like that's my favorite one. So there's actually like other places you can find like wild like blackberries and raspberries and wild strawberries. Those are very good. But in general, like I like plants that make fruit that you can eat because I like fruit. Next question's from Neraxic. Seeing what's going on with things like age verification stuff globally, are you worried about getting a regulator out of existence while the platform grows in user base? So, I don't think like we would. We'll probably like we all had kind of internal conversations about it, but we'll probably find like what is the best way we can kind of fulfill the regulations, while keeping things aligned with our values. And it can be definitely like difficult like in some cases, but like I feel it's better to kind of keep going and fight for our values than completely give up. So I don't think that it would kind of happen. Like we will make sure we kind of persevere through stuff. Fortunately, like, right now, like, we're kind of small, so, like, some of the stuff doesn't even, like, apply to us because it has, like, certain, like, revenue or user base kind of, like, requirements. But it'll definitely become, like, bigger problem, like, over time. But also I feel like, like, once it kind of grows in user base, like, it's, it makes some things easier, it makes some things harder. Check it, for example, like, you eat the bush? No, it's fruits. Just parts of the bush.
Crunchy.
What depends on this crunchy. Okay, that's all the questions we actually got now. How much time we have left still? It's, what, 45 minutes?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, yeah, 45 minutes.
It's 45 minutes. So if you have, like, more questions, feel free to ask. Check the Froox is asking, what's your favorite thing about Protoflex? You can program things in it.
Nothing.
Well,
I like the fact that, I don't know, I guess the same thing as Froox. It is sometimes an interesting challenge to, like, program things in the, like, it's not, like, super limited, but it is a somewhat limited thing for certain classes of problems, like large-scale problems that you typically have, like, ready-made acceleration structures for, like, mass deployment of, like, LODs. Our LOD component is not well suited for, like, 73,000 trees, unfortunately. But it's fun nonetheless, because I learn a lot about how to, like, make spatial hash maps and stuff. And also, Froox, I want decimal vectors now.
No.
Yeah.
You don't need a vector of money.
I do.
You don't need a vector of money.
People use it for simulations. It's a valid use case. It's a valid use case.
It's a valid use case, but it's a wrong use case.
Well, I'm sorry that you're wrong. I want my 128-bit vectors so that I can simulate my 128-bit math, my 128-bit Verlet integrator simulation with my 128-bit fixed time step accumulator.
I'm pretty sure it's 96 bits.
It is. It's not full 128 bits. I think a few of them are reserved for like the exponents and stuff.
The wrong one. Ah. Oh.
Thank you. More precise means more better, right?
Also, Deveros is asking, what's your least favorite thing about Protoflex? You can program things in it.
Everything.
It's I'm kind of going, like, I'm gonna look up have a meme. It's relevant.
Yeah, you can. It is both a blessing and a curse because I've seen some heinous things made with Protoflex.
Where's the meme?
Stop making heinous things, please.
People always make heinous things.
I will cry.
I'm trying to find him. I have a relevant meme, but I'm kind of not finding it. Where is it? Not this. Where is it? Am I blind? Sorry, it took a while. I look for the meme.
Okay. Yeah, it is on a real note a blessing and a curse, because, and I don't think it's necessarily like much of the fault of like people who like use it, but just because we are like a differently architected platform, I've seen some pretty heinous uses of Protoflux because people don't understand that we're not like a typical like client server architecture. We're much more like generic data model.
There we go, found the meme. It's just there we go.
True. Very true.
Next question's from Snudgley. I'm a bit of loop, but is Resonite the successor to Neos? I mean, pretty much no. Like, it's a separate project from it. Devers is asking, do you speak Japanese? I don't. I know a few words, but that's about it.
You speak JavaScript though.
No, it's a... It was funny thing because like I know how to say yes in Japanese, but I forget how to say no. But like I which means I can't like I was gonna say no, but I only know how to say yes. So this would have been
How do you say it in JavaScript?
no. Just go nil.
Any non-zero value is true.
Oh no. 0. Kennedy the Dragon's asking, what is your thoughts on amateur radio and how several people, I've been, including myself, are integrating private sessions into using Resonite with it? It sounds kind of cool. I know there's like a amateur radio like session, like meetups, like I think every month, like and they do. There's like the Resonite like Nara group, and they do like an event every year. I think they've done like 5 years at this point, something like that. I forget. But it's like I don't know, it is very cool because every year like they kind of do like a different cool thing. The most recent one they actually had like where they could like take screenshot in game and then it would actually be read out and sent over like SSTV over radio, and then they would like watch the website and just watch like very like grainy screenshots from Resonite, pop there that they like send from in game. And they also had it working the other way, where they would receive images and like you could literally see them like scanning like line by line from amateur radio. So it's super cool. I don't know specifically what you're talking about, like including it, integrating into private sessions. So like I don't really know what you're talking about there. So I can't like comment on that, but we might need to give like more detail. But the amateur radio seems to be pretty cool. It seems people have like a lot of fun with it.
I've actually not over radio, but like I've used a piece of software to like open a terminal to my server over a couple audio cables, so I could theoretically do it through radio.
Oh. Kevlop's asking, so when custom shaders come out, what types of shaders are going to be supported? Only things like pixel shaders, or would stuff like compute shaders also be supported? I thought it was a little bit too early to say in some regards. Like, we probably have some compute shader support, but also compute shader is like, a thing on its own. So that we kind of need to like, integrate into the pipeline and like, it's a little bit more complex. It's definitely gonna be more... Like, you're probably not going to write directly pixel shaders or vertex shaders because we actually want to kind of abstract away from that because the pipeline, can change. Like, for example, more modern pipelines, they don't even use vertex shaders. They'll use, like, task shaders and mesh shaders, which kind of replaces, the traditional, like, like the vertex rasterization fragment, like, pipeline, and, maybe some other extra stages in between, like geometry shaders. So we don't want to tie to that, but it's mostly gonna be like affecting the geometry and affecting like you will have like math like computer fragment. There's gonna be probably some abstraction like to handle lighting, so it also can the shaders can be like recompiled like if the lighting model changes. Computer shaders like it's its own thing because that's more generalized than just visuals. So like the first support is essentially for pretty much for like visual shaders that like affect how the geometry is processed and affect how the object is shaded. computer user, forgot if it was in Resonite user guidelines, but I remember seeing one of mentioned that you are not allowed to use source code to try to make a competitor to Resonite. Has anyone tried to do that? Assuming you would be allowed to talk about it. So I've only seen like one kind of project that sort of copied some of the stuff, but like not to the level like it was getting a bit to the level to like where like we were like, should we maybe do like, but it wasn't also like, you know, really doing much. So I would say more no, but there was like one project that was kind of getting there, like where we were like this doesn't seem quite cool. Like if it's one of those things, you know, like where we would probably do something like, you know, if somebody actually launched like a competitor and we found like, you know, it actually used some of our source code that they decompiled. At that point, like, you know, we kind of like it becomes like, you know, like where we have like some like legal claim and we can, you know, for example, like, you know, seek damages or stuff like that, but like nothing has gotten to that point. So I would say no, but there was one thing that was kind of getting there that was kind of but I'm not gonna get into specifics. Check the Fox Otter is asking, did you know that cheese is very much a valid projectile weapon as far as our tower system is concerned? Yes. I know like people like use like all kinds of like fun things with that game, like we can just bring our own weapons and have fun with it. I haven't used cheese though. Snudgely is asking, what's on the other side of the stream camera? Horrors beyond your comprehension.
There's nothing.
It's you!
That's pretty horrible, right?
Yes. We could like give, how much time we have? We have 30 minutes. We could go a little tour of the world, maybe. Let me change the camera.
I was gonna say like, there's nothing there.
Lots of stuff, like, there's more, like this world is like relatively big. You can like check it out as one of the MMC entries. It's in the narrative category, so there's like a bunch of stuff. Let's see.
It's kind of cute here.
We can go here, look at this little pause. It's actually quite a big world. I do like the scenery of it, it's pretty nice. There's like this section, and guess we can go here. And here. Oh, there's an arcade. There's this section. This is actually where you normally start. So kind of going backwards. There's like fables and stuff. There's like a cavern with crystals over here. And it's kind of pretty. And over here, it's another section. Oop! Come on. It kind of like gives like a vibe of like some sort of like museum thingy. I can go this way. That way goes to where we started, but there's another section through here. Oh my god, there's a bubble. There's this section. There's like a hologram thingy.
Oh, is that Critter Canyon? I think that hologram is.
And there's like these things. Oh, what?
I think the hologram's supposed to be their old map, the Critter Canyon map up there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm just kind of built on their like other maps, like they're like building the lore for it. And which way do I get back? Oh, it was through here. Go here. And look for our spot here. So, hope that answers the question. Next question is from Colin. What plans do you have for data feeds? For example, I've heard about Perflex node visuals using them. Maybe, I don't know like if I'd use them for Perflex nodes because that might have too much overhead with how many nodes there are, depends a little bit. That one I have to think about. I don't know if it'd be the right tool for that. But generally like a lot of the UIs are gonna be work with them, like inventory, contacts, worlds, you know, they're gonna be using data feeds. The components and node selector are gonna be using data feeds. The inspector itself is probably gonna use data feeds. Which may be used for them for nodes as well. We'll see. Those ones, like, I would say as far as priority goes, like using nodes UI for data feeds, like that's kind of low on the list because like that one I don't think like maybe eventually, but like there's gonna be a lot more stuff that's not the nodes UI first. Protection Flags asking, do you fear WebAssembly support for potential ungodly machines people might orchestrate? I look forward to
it. Do you look forward to having people run Java in your engine?
I changed my mind. No, it's it is gonna be fun. Like people will have like a lot of fun with it, and like we'll see a lot of cursed shenanigans. But Resonite also is the platform of cursed shenanigans.
Yeah, you'll be able to compile. I think pretty much any language you can compile to WebAssembly, even if it's the wrong choice.
Yes, you see, that's the thing. You have to let people make the wrong choices.
Yeah,
that's how people learn.
You're free to be wrong.
I mean, I would even say like you need to be wrong sometimes. That's how you learn. You learn from mistakes. Next question's from computer user. Is it possible to make an item like a large weapon that you hold with two hands? Asking because I plan eventually remaking hammer that final boss of Resonite uses, and said boss typically wields it with both hands. Yes, you can, and there already are items like that. I don't know if I have one that I can spawn right away.
Yeah, they're like a little trickier to make just because you gotta like finagle the way that it, like the weapon is like held in your hand, but like it does, like people have done it and people have done it very successfully.
Yes. I don't think I have an on hand, unfortunately. But yeah, you can definitely make those. There's like one like guns like where you can like adjust the aim. I don't have a sample I could show you right now, unfortunately, but they exist. Nerdax is asking, Froox, how often do you get compared to James Halliday from Ready Player One? I mean, it happened before, but I feel like people don't like reference Ready Player One as much though anymore.
Yeah, it was a lot more common like way back when, but it doesn't seem, I haven't actually heard anybody say it recently.
Yeah, it's not been very recent. Protection Flags asking, native React support in Resonite?
Like I said, you're free to be wrong, and I just won't agree with you, and you can continue to be wrong. It's fine.
Colin's asking, say no in Japanese? You don't, because that's rude. From what I know, they actually rather talk around it instead of directly saying no. I mean, I guess a part of it, but like, there still is word for no. Like, I mean, depends what you're asking, because, you know, there's gotta be things where you say no, and it's not rude at all. Next question's from TomTam. With everything being synced in Resonite, are there any plans to have private data support? I mean, stuff like API keys and similar. I guess it could live in the user space, but I'm not sure. So you can do some local storage, like, there's the local stores and stores, which are kind of local, but like there's still like the inherent danger of somebody instruments something that like reads out and writes the data into a data model. So I would say for API keys, this is definitely not a good approach. What is probably going to be the best way to approach it is like, and Resonate actually has support for it, but it's not fully exposed, like, to protoflags, are local parts of hierarchy. And it's actually how a lot of stuff like, for example, UIs work. So unfortunately, I've exploded, and I lost all the questions, so you will need to re-ask the questions, I think. So if your questions was posted, like, what was the last one we were answering?
We were... crap, I don't know.
Whatever the question was when I exploded, if your question was after that, like, you'll need to repost it, please, because I kind of lost things. Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Let me also put a camera anchor again. There we go. Okay. So we got a question from Jack the Fox Otter. Jack is asking, I know one thing you've started with protoflags but haven't managed to fully implement is DSP systems. Can you elaborate a bit how this will work on a technical level? So that's kind of interesting. Is what they do is because they're kind of like general data processing, which is meant to like do like a lot of kind of heavy stuff, like for example processing audio buffers, processing mesh buffers, processing texture buffers. One of the general things in the system is they automatically handle multi-threading and copying buffers when necessary. So for example, if you have let me just grab a brush. I'm just going to use this one because it's quick to access. So if you have like nodes, and for example this does like some processing, you have like one input node and another input node, and then like you do a thing with it, so like this does a thing. So like this one like merges these two signals, and this one does a thing. This node, it what it does, it doesn't need to create a copy of whatever output of this one is. This one can modify it straight up. So it just can work on the existing buffer. But if you do this, for example, you use the output for two different nodes, and this one will do like something different. The system will be able to detect it and just be able to make like, okay, I need to create a copy of this buffer, because if this one modifies it, then this one will get like, this modified version, and this kind of solves that. But another thing that it does is automatically handle multi-threading. So like, it'll sort of schedule, when you have like multiple inputs, like this can be computed on one thread, because you have a sequence, and this can be computed independently on the other thread. Meaning these two compute in parallel, and then like once this has all the inputs it needs, only then this one will compute, and once this one computes, this can actually start two more threads, and then at some point it'll kind of merge back up. So like this one computes, and now this can be another thread, this can be another thread, and then like it'll auto like synchronize it at this point, and this way the DSP system, it's gonna be one of the things that's gonna help it perform like really well. And it's also something that kind of spreads across different types. Yes.
If you're doing stuff that is like, maybe if it's like simple enough, or if you need it to be fast enough, could you use some of these buffers like on like the stack, for example? Because I do some of that for like some of our audio stuff that is like where I'm like chunking it. I actually do a little tiny bit of processing on the stack because it's way faster.
Depends for the node. Like probably not across these because like it needs to be able to move between threads, which means you cannot stack allocate it. But if the node itself, for its own processing, needs to allocate additional buffers, it can allocate those on stack.
Okay.
But
Cool.
like you can't do it like for the ones because like it can literally like it might need to be like okay, this needs to move to another thread. So like it's gonna use like a pool of buffers. But yeah, that hopefully that answers the question. Okay, Wolf's asking, what is your favorite programming play on words joke? Mine is that I can C#. Mine's actually kind of related to that. It's like, it's actually a joke. It's like, why do Java programmers wear glasses? Because they can't C#.
Listen, you may be able to see sharp, but can you B flat?
Oh my god. It's B flat. There's actually this one's not play on words joke, but it's actually there's the famous like there are 1-1-0 they're like 1-0. It doesn't work when you say it. Like this is a joke that needs to be written. There are 1-0 types of people, and it like reads like there are 10 types of people: those who understand binary and those who don't. Obviously, this doesn't work when you actually say it out loud. But there's like variations of this joke, and there's another one that's like, for example, like there are 1-0 types of people: those who understand binary, and those who don't, and those who didn't expect a ternary joke. But I do have a favorite version of this type of joke that works even when you say it.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yes. There are 2 types of people: those who can extrapolate from incomplete data,
I'm one of those people.
Also, I kind of don't want to do snippets today. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not a snippet day. Oh, we don't have any more questions, like actual... I do want to do type box. That's actually first. You. You're the other type of asking this thing. Anyway, we've got a typongs question from computer user. I actually do have like one that I kind of wanted to do because I wanted to talk about this a bit. For many of you, like the MMC awards ceremony was yesterday. And I've been kind of like busy this week because we're doing like I'm one of the MMC judges. We were going through like through the entries, and then for the award ceremony Thursday and Friday our rehearsals. Actually, I think they do rehearsals before then, but like that's just like the crew, and we were doing the judging, so we couldn't be there. But because I'm also been like a presenter for some of the awards, like I would like join the rehearsals, and it's not like the first year I've done it, but I always like really like joining those because like it's so much fun and it's so cool, like what all the people behind the scenes actually do to make those ceremonies happen. It's the same with the opening ceremony too. There's a lot of people behind the stage that you don't even like know about, who put all of this together. And you've got people like Jason. You've got like who's he's like a director. He like teaches directing like at I think at University of New York, and he's like directing the whole thing. And they got like a bunch of like people he works with, like who are actually a lot of them are cast on the Meta Movie project, but also like kind of work behind the stage for these. We go to like Kenneth, you go like projectivity, subjectivity, and some other people like and VRX does some of the stage work. David Turner, he's like one of the people there. There's like Rusio, Stifel, who are like doing a lot of technical kind of support and stuff. And every year, like when I like I'm gonna talk about it a little from my perspective because one of the reasons I really enjoy it is like like when we get to the rehearsals. Um, Jason, he gets everyone kind of together, sort of like in a circle, and he's like, this is what we're gonna be doing today, and like, doing this thing, this thing, this thing. This team's gonna be doing this. We're gonna make sure this and this. And he just kind of gets everyone kind of ready, for the day, and then like everybody kind of scatters, like, to do their thing. And then we've got like, everyone has like, we have a script, that we have to go through. And the script has, the speaking lines for presenters and stuff. It also has cues. And usually the Thursday, that's when we do like technical rehearsal. And that one, like, is kind of just going through the script, like, very slowly, going through it like step by step. And essentially, like, we kind of like, do a little bit, and then like, Jason will like go like cut, and like then he'll be like, maybe this thing needs to be fixing, this thing needs to be tightening, or like, he gives like direction to people, and it's just kind of slowly working through the script, working out the issues, and like the stage crew, they're sort of, training how to do cues, and like, and how the script kind of, like works out, and figuring out any of the issues, because sometimes, things are not aligned well. And then like, and we usually just go through the script just once. It takes a bit to get through it. And the stage crew are kind of like, kind of get trained. And then the next day is like, there's a rehearsal where we try to get through the script without like any start and stop. So like, go smoothly and make sure everybody's kind of trained. Also like Jason, he'll like run through it, like, he'll set up his cameras. He has like a whole like camera switcher thing, like, where some of the people like in the crew, they're like, handling some of the cameras, so they're giving him like, moving shots, he has some static shots, and he'll be like, switching between them. And also during the technical rehearsal, he will like, be like, giving people like, directions and stuff, like, like where it's like, and working with them, like this is like work on and so on. And you can kind of hear all of it. Like you can like, you can hear Jason like, giving like, the directions, and you can hear like, the stage crew like giving cues. Like the Sarah Kenneth was like, giving some cues like on like the lights and music, and when to switch slides and so on. And I find it like really cool, just being able to be part of that. Seeing how all of these people kind of work together. To sync up and like make everything happen. And then, for example, they might run into some technical issue, something like they switch some stage, maybe for one of the performances, and there's like, some stuff doesn't happen the way it's supposed to be, and then like, they'll be like, they'll ask the technical crew to look into it. Maybe we take like, 5-minute break, they kind of look into the issue and fix up things. And it's just, it is a lot of fun. And then like, the dress rehearsal, we actually don't hear most of the cues. The crew will kind of go into like Discord call, and they can hear the cues, but the presenters, we don't like hear most of them. And we kind of have to like run through it smoothly, and then like, the next day is actually live. And my like typunks part of this is, it's just like that I've like, I've gotten like the opportunity to be the part of it, and that all those people behind the scenes put this together, and that I get a chance to work with them like on this, because it's like, I'm kind of more from technical background, but also like, I love learning how things are made, like in general, and for like, say movies and theater and like, TV series and so on. I love like watching behind the scenes and kind of, getting some sense for how these things work, and how like, a lot of people that you don't even see on the screen, how they kind of produce, how they all come together to make, the show happen. And so being able to like, be a little part of that, like it's always been like one of my favorite things, of the year. Like, and some of the reasons I kind of like, being there and doing some of the presenting is like, just being able to work with that, like, even for a little bit. And I always like appreciate like, the work and time everybody kind of puts into like making that show happen, and that also like, they give me opportunity to like, be like a part of it too. So that's kind of my typunks.
This maybe isn't a typunks to a lot of people, especially if you're a programmer, but it's a typunks for me just because like things have kind of I don't really talk about it much, but like things have kind of sucked in my life right now. And one of the things that I was doing to kind of like cheer myself up is just random small little projects I can do in like a few hours. I figured out how to run the C++ macro preprocessor on C# code.
Oh,
So C# with macros, anybody? Yeah?
I don't know
That's
how
my
to feel about
type
that.
Yeah, well, you don't want macros? You don't want like 17 different type aliases?
How long before this typung turns into schnappet?
Well, it's typunks for me. Whether it's a schnapper for you is up to you.
So we're actually kind of getting out of time. We've got like 7 minutes. We still got some time for a few questions, but if there's like any long ones, we might not be able to get through them at this point. But feel free to ask if you wanna.
Yeah, nothing about the like. What is your deep, like exquisite detail philosophy on like the platform questions, please?
Make things go cool.
C# with macros.
Jacob the Froox is asking, what is your personal highlight MMC entry? Aha, I can talk about this now. For me, like my top favorite entry from like this year's MMC is the Seraphim by Hammercorp. Actually, I forget. Like I think it should be like it's by group because I know Hammercorp, Charismare, Jinxiest, and Zhao like all like worked on that one. I kind of forget what their team name was. Let's see. It's published by Hammercore, but forget what entry. But anyway, it's this entry. I'm gonna show so you can see on camera. This entry has like blown me away. Like when I was going through it, I was like, I feel this could like be in multiple different categories because like it's art, it is narrative, it is even social world, and like I would be like, this can win any of them. Like it's such a good experience, you know, that just like makes you feel things, and you go into it and you're like, okay, like this looks pretty cool, and then like there's a lot more than you would even expect. It's like it's blown me away that like, you know, somebody can build this, you know, especially within a month on our platform. Like this could be like, you know, like experience, you know, at like, you know, like one of those like festivals like Sundance or Raindance or whatever they're called. It's really good. If you haven't been through it, like go through it. It's like it's very good. I don't want to spoil anything, but like it's just like it looks great. Like the atmosphere is great. Like go through it. Like go through it in VR. If you like, unless you don't have VR headset, go through it in VR. Like you have to feel this in VR. It's like you have to. I don't wanna say too much, but like you know, like it is good. We'll probably like do like a stream from there like one time too. Like it's good. So if you have any, do you want to share?
I actually just haven't had much of time to go through any.
Oh.
Yeah, I've literally just been like too busy in like my real life. Like I had like 24 or more people at my house yesterday.
Oh my.
It was more like actually 36 now that I think about it. It was crazy.
That's a lot. You have to ask this question again after we get through some.
Okay.
Perversion Flags asking, what is your philosophical stance on mangoes? Mango good. Mango eat. Nom 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 nom. Nom. Check the Fox is asking, what is there a philosophical reasoning behind the existence of Resonite? Bringo Burr make funny stuff. It's true.
True, very true.
I mean, it's kind of like, if I were to like really shorten it, the big philosophical stance behind Resonite is that imagination's kind of core of everything, whether it's like, fictional stuff, but or even like real stuff, like, science. And the big philosophy of Resonite is being able to take imagination from your head and turn it into a shared reality, that you can share with others and even both with others. And that's, kind of at the core of like what a platform is. Being able to like, share and live within the things like people imagine, turning them to actual reality that others can explore and experience together. There you go. So, we answered in less than a minute, I think. Computer users asking, April Fool's stream where Froox only speaks Czech and Sire only speaks Tokipona. I feel it'd be harder for Sire a lot more than me.
Me and Tokipona, Tasso, fucking me, me,
You?
I think, yeah, me, yo, me, yo, Asona, Jan Fruxius, and Tokipona. That was probably really butchered. I'm sorry for anybody who actually speaks Tokipona. Me, I mean, Mika Tokipona, Lily, so, I don't speak it a lot, so I'm a little rusty.
All I got from that is that you are a Sona.
I was saying that, like, I can talk a little bit of Tokipona, but I don't know if you can talk a little Tokipona.
I can't. No, I don't know Tokipona. I can kind of talk Czech, but like also like I don't really talk in Czech about technical stuff. So it's I fall back a lot on English. I don't know.
That means you can talk weird.
I talk weird. Okay. Anyways, we got 20 seconds, so thank you very much for joining the stream. I hope like you enjoyed it, even though like exploded like in part of it. So thank you everyone. Thank everyone for like making super cool things for MMC. It's been like a lot of fun going through all the MMC stuff. I actually want to talk a little bit more like about like things too. And we're probably gonna be hosting like these in like a bunch of MMC worlds as well, going forward. Thank you everyone like who supports the platform. It's thanks to everyone that like we can kind of keep going. We can keep the lights on. We can like continue improving the platform. And just generally, keeping it independent, keeping it like aligned with our kind of vision. So thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week. I think. You should be able to see next week. I'm gonna see if there's anyone to raid. So give me a second. I'm just gonna load a thing. So we'll see if anybody streams Resonite. Let's see.
Jan Ale, Opona.
Resonite. Come on.
One of these days I'll get someone who speaks Tokipona in the chat.
Oh, on Twitch is having a time. Oh, there's a Bujinka. Oh, this is having a time. Ooh. Social Sunday. They seem to be on Resonite, so let's. I'm gonna send you over to them. Let's see. Oh my god, Twitch is having a lot of issues. So wait, I should be able to do it from here. Come on. There we go. So, rate. Bujinka? I don't know how to pronounce it, but yeah. Give them, the best, be kind to them, and told him hi.
Bye-bye.
Blah. Okay,
Opona.
it's getting there. Opona. Blah. We're gonna stop the stream.